that's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 48 for Tuesday, May 10th, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined as always in the PETM podcast studio by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, Sherwin?
Here I am. Here I go. We're about to do this thing again for the 48th time. I think that's pretty cool. And yes, with the thing, let's do the podcast.
Let's do the podcast.
It'll be a lot of fun.
All right. What you drinking today?
I'm drinking Jim Beam White Label and tonic. How about you? What do you got?
Well, I got me the old standby Mr. Miller Lite right here.
Got a little light over there?
Little right here with the old white can. And God bless them for, 3 years straight now, going with the white can after they said, oh, we'll stop doing this after like the Daytona 500 in 2013 or 2012.
Well, I'm convinced it was because we played Wisest Wizard during the blizzard of 2013.
Yeah, it could be. Had a staff 7 or 8 long.
Had like
at like 3 p.m.
30 packs in my house at one point, I think.
Yeah. Well, let's dig right in, man. Let's, as always, kick this thing off with the PETM podcast car up there at Lee County Speedway in Iowa. Kenny Smith driving the 24K car, and it was on last Thursday night while we were podcasting. And I believe he ended up 8th place on that one. And
Top 10 machine.
I'm telling y'all, in a very competitive league right there. And I believe for the first time he led a lap in the heats.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
that was really cool.
So every week we've got like a new first race we had with him. Next week he had like a 6th place finish. It was awesome. This past week we had leading laps. We've had sheep on the track. We've had fist fights in the stands. It's been a hell of a deal watching old Kenny.
Yeah, well that short track down home stuff, you can't beat it in terms of reaction, emotion, situational consequence, all that stuff.
Yeah. So I guess we'll dig right in again with Kansas here. So we had Kansas. Kansas happened. So here's my take. Here's what happened.
Where do we start is the thing.
Well, here's where I'll start. I didn't watch the race live on Saturday. Our esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, she also runs commencement at a major university in downtown Atlanta that I happen to be wearing a shirt for. And, of course, it was the spring commencement ceremonies. That's her biggest event of the year on Saturday. So once that's done, we usually go out for a nice meal. I went out for our nice meal and everything on Saturday, stayed up, doing all that mess. And I would have had to catch the race at, like, the very end, and I wasn't about to do that. I want to see the whole thing.
Right.
So woke up Sunday morning, Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. And
Happy
to all the moms out
Mom.
there. My mother actually lives many time zones to the west of us, and so I wasn't going to call her too early. The Frizz 11, she ran off to go see her mom here in town. And old Rusty's sitting there on the couch by himself at 10 a.m. Said, all right, well, we're going to put this race on. Had me a little breakfast, put the race on. Let me tell you what happened. I sat there and watched that race and had me a good old time. From flag to flag, enjoyed watching it, enjoyed it. You know, part of it, I think, was seeing Truex running out front for a lot of the race, so enjoying seeing that. Bummer with the whole lug nut there, whatever his issue was. Fast forwarding the whole
some weird
bolt
thing.
So fast forwarding, we had the Denny Hamlin incident, is what we'll call it, between him and who was it? Larson and Sliced Bread and Keselowski mixed up in that.
Yes, all of those.
And we'll get into all those.
Dinger
topics.
too, I think.
Dinger, and ended up, Kyle Busch took it away, and at the end we had a little bit of run for the lead, just to see if anybody could catch him, use up their tires. Couldn't make it. I think Harvick was in there. Kyle Busch wins the race. It's about noon for me at this point, and I went, you know what? I just enjoyed myself sitting here by myself on the couch, not on Twitter because I'm not wanting to see who won the race or nothing. But I actually enjoyed myself, and at the end of it, I said, that was really enjoyable to watch, and I bet the Twitterscape is going to be upset about how we didn't have another 3-wide finish at the very end. What'd you think?
Well, so what I thought was if the race had gone the way it should have gone, which is Martin Truex doesn't have the weird thing, is that it was going to be a boring race because there was no passes for the lead. When he had the lead, he was gone.
He was gone. It harkened back to like last year or year before.
And if you listen to Door Bumper Clear, that there was a lot of conversation about that on their podcast about how it was the center of the corner speeds were really fast, like we've seen in the last few years with the way the aero package and the speed package worked. And so we kind of harkened back to there because they brought a bias ply tire, which had two different kinds of rubber on it. The inside half of the tire had a soft compound, but the outside had a hard compound. Mm-hmm. And if I get those mixed up, I don't really care. What it boils down to is the tires didn't wear as much as we've seen at other mile and a halves. Mm-hmm. So they were entering the corner turbo fast, which means it's not lifting, it's not braking, it's like you're stabbing into a place. And that's what happened with Denny Hamlin. He's like, I know I have to stab into this place, but they've never done that at 201 mile an hour.
Right.
So it sucked Brad around because he's like, well, he didn't
crazy
have any control over it.
He held the line. He just hit an air dam.
There was
nobody can see.
Yeah, he didn't do anything crazy other than stick it in there in the place, and then the air upset all three cars. And there was, I say all three. It upset Brad's car and upset Denny Hamlin's car, and they washed into, was it Joey?
I think it was Larson, and then Joey plowed into him.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, it was Larson, and then Joey plowed in the back. So it was a really different thing that we've seen so far this year in the low downforce package because it's the first time they didn't bring a tire that would really be abrasive. But on the flip side, what was weird about that is it wore a lot. So the track really blackened up. Mm-hmm. But you could tell, like when a car would cut a weird line, it would peel the rubber up. You could see that almost like you can see it when a car locks up on regular pavement that has no rubber on it.
Yep.
And it leaves a stripe, two stripes.
It was the other direction?
It was the exact opposite. It would peel the rubber up. So it's like the rubber was just kind of sitting there. It wasn't really in the track as these guys talk about.
Well, so, and with this finish and everything that we had, I guess the thing that gets me is you can't have 3 wide at the stripe at the end for the finish every week. And if you wanted that, you're going to have to deal with some rule changes that I don't think anybody's going to want. Well,
obviously NASCAR fans hated that because we had 5 wide, 2 deep at Talladega a few years ago, and they hated it. So we had to change what was the racing that we were doing then. So
I think, some races this year are just going to be like this one, where you just have some cars going around. You have some, they're trying stuff different with the tires. I thought it was cool, again, to see Truex running well. And having a good time and a good run at it. What ended up being his problem? I know it was the tire issue.
No, what it was there's a bolt that mounts the hub to the braking system, or the braking system to the hub, and it sheared off a little chunk of metal. Mm-hmm. And it got in between the wheel. It got in between the wheel and the hub. And so even though when they zip, like once they started to run, it fell out, and all of a sudden you've got a gap there.
Yeah.
Or you've got a tire sitting, or a wheel sitting cattywampus.
Yep. And so now it's blah, 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 blah.
Now it's like, like you can't run that way, even if it's only 25, 27, 32 laps to go, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so they had to come in, and you see Truex completely dominate. That's the second race at Kansas that he's destroyed and had no chance of winning at the end.
Which is a bummer.
Bummer. I think we all like Truex. I scoffingly put on the tweeter Martin Chokex Jr. It didn't have anything to do with Martin.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the pit crew. It was a really fluky failure.
Yep.
But because it's happened multiple times with him,
you start to wonder.
You start to, Clemsoning? Is this Truexing? You know what I mean?
Truexing?
Like, is this?
Yeah.
Like,
how's
what
it
is
gonna,
this?
I mean,
thing?
that's if he's up front again this year, all that's going to be asked is, all right, how are they going to flub this one up?
Right, and it's. I mean, we ask it behind closed doors. We say it with a four-letter word. We say, how are they going to screw this up?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have dominated this race, and we talked about Harvick with this. The main difference with the conversation about Harvick is Harvick had 4 wins and 11 second places versus 11 second places and no wins.
Right.
Like that sort of phenomenon.
And so Kyle Busch takes it across the stripe. I know that's, a sore spot for a lot of people.
I mean, then he melts it down, destroys the right rear quarter panel, rips all the crush panels out of it, destroys anything NASCAR could inspect on the right rear.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder, okay, the guy's won like 33 or 34 Cup races now. He's won over 100 Xfinity races, and he's won like 47 truck races or whatever it is. It's not an accident when you decide to rip the right rear off the car. So what kind of stuff are they boogering around with?
So you're not saying, you're just saying?
I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying.
I'm saying he deliberately destroyed the right rear of the car. Kind of like we talked about Jimmie Johnson a couple years ago.
Well, and I remember that happening, but I don't recall seeing on the Twitterverse lately. I'm going to use all kinds of word for the global entity of Twitter today.
Yeah, it might be just the podcast verse that I listened to today.
In Twitter world, I hadn't seen any, or I hadn't seen much. I hadn't seen anything about that, actually. I'll admit that actually once the race was over, I kind of went and made me a drink. I mean, it was noon, right? And then came back in, and they were already interviewing Kyle, so I didn't actually see it.
I didn't either.
Okay.
I'm relying on, in the sport, I'm relying on competitors for information here.
Yeah.
And competitors saying that there's no reason you would burn the right rear off the car other than to damage it because of potential inspection stuff.
Interesting.
Especially when you've won over 200 NASCAR races combined.
Interesting.
It's not like it was your first go at it, Bubba.
So I guess bust that big old bladder of ball bearings that's in the right rear.
Yeah. Well, no, but here's the other thing, and this is where it goes from like tinfoil hat to not tinfoil hat, is there were drivers that went down the back stretch in the cooldown lap that actually purposely hit the wall to reset the car so that they would pass inspection. Like they were crashing into the wall on purpose to reset the car so that they would pass the laser inspection.
So speaking of some weird adjustments, was it Matt Kenseth who got dinged on pit road for no, it wasn't Kenseth.
It was Hamlin.
Hamlin dinging on pit road
Can't
for the
figure out how
hip
to
check.
not cheat on speed.
I mean, we've done
Cheater. That dude has got more speeding penalties in the last decade than anybody has ever gotten, ever.
That's probably close to right. Even if it isn't, it's worth saying it that way.
They cannot figure out how to not push the limit on Spit Road. Spit
Road.
That's what I just did in the mic. On pit road, they had four? Was it 4? 3 or 4? They had to do pass-throughs because they sped on pit road. And it's like, look, it's real cool you're busting off an 11.2 second pit stop, but if you speed every time, then it doesn't matter. Like, you want to be he wants to be Kyle Busch so bad he can taste it.
Who had the hip check penalty?
Jamie McMurray.
Jamie Mac. Okay, that's
and it was weird. They made him go in under green. They made him go inside the driver's side window.
Yep.
Which means they had to take it out.
Yep. Was watching
because it's a fast speed track, which means you had to run a right side window, and they had to go in and beat it out, which is weird because Kyle won the race and destructified. That's a new word. The right rear, but that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, and
I thought it was weird because up in the booth they were saying, I think Jeff Gordon was even saying, I've never seen that called before, and quite frankly, everybody does it all the time. It's kind of like Holden in NFL.
Well, that's been the narrative amongst the commentators in NASCAR, the editorials, the people you respect have all talked about that. It's like, how could you possibly hold Jamie laps to fix a thing and make him go in the car when Kyle Busch has torn the right rear off the car? Like, how is that the same? What do we?
Well, one of them's after the fact, I guess, but I'm not trying to defend it. I'm
No,
just saying
I'm not
I don't
either.
know where this
but
line
what I'm
is.
saying is, like, what's the
what's
conversation? How do we get to a place where it seems more neutral?
Yeah.
That there's a penalty in race, there's not one after race. How do we decide? I totally get NASCAR wanting to say all the fans left today and they know who won the race.
Yep.
We're not going to take wins away for rule compromising. However, let's we might need to rein some of the post-race behavior back in. If we're going to say a guy can't bump into a car and change a little bit of topography on it, how about fix your rule package so that topography change doesn't matter?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would say. Make the thing flat. If they want to bump into it and smash in, and that gives them an advantage, how about make the rules such that they couldn't do that and gain an advantage?
Yeah.
Wash that out of the rule book.
I thought it was going to be like a fender flare that they did or something or something weird. But when they showed the replay and they showed Jackman that just ran up and kind of just hip checked the car. And I mean, they didn't say hip check in terms of like they just invented that word. They said it in terms of, oh, he did the old hip check move. You know what I mean?
Right. Like everybody knew what it was. This is the thing we all used to do. Why? Because when it's going through the turn and the ass is hanging out just a little bit, it catches enough air, pushes the back around, and you can stay in the gas without slipping the rear wheel. Like all of that stuff.
Yep.
So, I mean, either design the car with that modification already built in, or design the rule book and the car such that you couldn't make that modification even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
So, bottom line, old Kyle Busch takes a win.
Number 3, right?
Number 3, leading the.
Well,
leading the pack in that.
It was really eerie. You posted the very first podcast that we did, the one that I recorded with an iPhone, and I said something about basically what the underlying theme was. Kyle Busch is fixing to be Kyle Busch, and it's going to matter. And well, Kyle Busch matters right now quite a bit. Whether you're a fan or not, it's trouble.
So let's
for competitors. That is,
yeah.
And it's not trouble for the sport; it's trouble for competitors.
So speaking of greatness, it's our 48th episode. I wasn't sure how. We knew everybody, or we knew when we got to the 48th episode. There's really only one person you can talk about when we're talking about 48, and that's Jimmie Johnson, of course. And I wasn't sure how we were going to bring it up. And then Ricky Craven just put out a fantastic article, and y'all go look it up. Maybe we'll post it on the Twitter handle. I know we've probably retweeted it already. But he put up a fantastic article about his 5 tiers of drivers with one exception. And to summarize it right quick, he says, and I've got it open right here, Tier 1 being the drivers that are that win every year, they have championship rings, and they represent the best the sport has to offer, is his words. And this is coming from Ricky Craven, who's known as the NASCAR Sensei among some groups. Tier 2, drivers that won a ton of races. They're perennial chase members, but and they're in the hunt for titles, but aren't there. Denny Hamlin, Carl Edwards, Joey Logano. And in that first group, they was talking about Matt Kenseth, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, etc. And then 3rd-tier drivers, they've won a race but no title. 4th-tier drivers, they haven't won, they've got potential. 5th-tier drivers, they just got to be in better equipment. One thing about this article, he's never really saying that there's anybody in NASCAR who's just doesn't deserve to be there or isn't any good or anything. So a lot of respect that he's showing for all the drivers, because he's not saying, oh, this guy's an idiot and he shouldn't be in there. You eyeballing something over there. What you got?
No, I'm just reading Racing Reference.
I gotcha. So big props to him on that. But what he said was, you'll see that in my lists above, I have not even mentioned a few people, and that's Jimmie Johnson, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, David Peterson. Where'd that come from? David Pearson and Jeff Gordon. And he said they stand in a league of their own, in a tier of their own that is way above everybody else. When you're talking about Wayne Gretzky in hockey, when you're talking about Michael Jordan, when you're talking about Joe Montana, these are the guys who are in that elite league right there of their own. And I think it's something you and I have talked about on this podcast before, which is like, how do we induct members into the Hall of Fame? Is the Hall of Fame a list of past champions, or is it actually people who change the sport in a certain way, or do you have a hall inside the Hall of Fame for these people like this? And so I thought it was a great article, and including the number 48 in there, Jimmie Johnson. So
I thought Ricky's article was awesome. It was such a fun read. It's a really interesting insight from a cerebral racer about the people that really impacted this sport. And he had a lot of access to those people, whether or not he was alive when they raced or he had a chance as a racer to interact with them. And what's so cool about it is we don't have to elect active racers to Halls of Fame. And I think that's the thing people need to back off and understand is, it's like, well, Jeff Gordon should instantly be in the Hall of Fame tomorrow. It's like, no, that's not how Hall of Fames work.
He'll get there.
Like, why don't we just let him process what he's doing now, and then let's surf the wave that is him going in. And the same is going to be true for Jimmie. The great thing about Jimmie is Jimmie's only 41, 42 years old, showing no signs of slowing down.
Oh,
so the 48 is, like, we're not done with the 48, but the 48 has done some things that in the era that almost every racer that has raced in this era or is still racing in this era says this is the most competitive NASCAR has ever been.
I say it all the time.
So what Jimmie is doing is like the most impactful of any racer there has been. Mm-hmm. And I think I say PETM Posse, you and me, he's going to get to 8, and people are going to freak out. He's going to get to 100 wins, and people are going to freak out.
Yep.
And
looking forward to it.
But then we're going to have to look back 15 years from now when he's 60, not quite 60, when he's 57 or whatever he is.
He's 40 right now.
With teenagers that are starting to get in cars, and he's finished racing, and he's probably going to move away from it in a very similar fashion that Bill Elliott did. Mm-hmm. He waited till his kid wanted to get involved, and he was pretty much gone for the sport for 13 years or whatever. And we're going to go, holy crap, that guy was the best there's ever been. Mm-hmm. That's Roy Hobbs. That's the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're exactly right. And I thought it was great to read that article. Again, read that article, everybody. And he solicits opinion. And he said, I want to hear what everybody else has to say about that. So same here. We want to hear what everybody else has to say. Tweet us, tweet Ricky Craven, and let us know. But that's the 48. Did you have some numbers for us?
Yeah, it's not quite Jeff Gordon where he won 47 races in 5 years. But Jimmie won 32 in 5 years, but he's never won. He's only had 1 year where he won less than 3, and that was in 2011, and that was the first year of 5 years in a row he didn't win the championship.
Wow.
And he's already got 2 wins this year.
Wow.
So we would expect that he would win more than 2, and that would be the least amount since he started racing full-time.
So let's bring it down, and then we'll bring it back up. But we want to go down just a little bit, just for a minute, because hitting the...
And we're going to talk about the biggest name in racing for the most part.
Yeah, Earnhardt is the name. And we've got... I don't know that I have... I'm squeaking a little bit there. I don't know. I don't know if we've got, or if I've got, a whole lot to add to the conversation about Theresa Earnhardt, and she is suing Carrie Earnhardt or whatever over the use of the Earnhardt name in like his home building business or his home renovation business. Yeah, and I'll tell you, number one, I don't think there's anything that I can say that hasn't been said, but number two, I don't think she has an ally in the world on this one. Like, I haven't seen anybody say, well, guys, one thing you got to realize, this is a business, or one thing you got to know, Earnhardt would have wanted this, or he said blah, blah, blah. There's nothing that's been said, nothing that's been tweeted, nothing that's been written other than just vitriol and more hatred than you see normally for that. Even the family just tweeting out stuff like, I hate to see that we have to go through this, blah, blah, blah. It's our name, too. So, like I said, I don't have much to add other than she's on an island, her and her lawyers.
Yeah, well,
her lawyers because she's paying them.
Yeah, well, Dave Moody, who writes for MRN, does radio for MRN, and does Sirius XM radio for NASCAR, the Godfather Moody, he and I haven't always agreed, but his piece on Theresa is spot on. Mm-hmm. To steal a segment from Door Bumper Clear. Spot on. And the same thing is true for Jeff Owens from Sports Nation, who wrote a very similar but different article about what the business impact of Theresa's behavior has been since Dale Earnhardt died, and maybe what Dale's opinion would be if he was looking from afar and seeing what was happening and wonder what they were doing. Like, it's been so bad. Like, there's no way to describe how bad it's been between Theresa and the kids who actually inherited the name the appropriate way, which is, through being fathered by the man with the name.
Yep.
Theresa marrying into the name. Now, she deserves a lot of credit for helping him understand the business model. Because he didn't necessarily understand that before she came along in the maybe 81, 82 time frame when he started winning championships and winning races all the time, and it was like, your name is a brand, you should market that. But the unceremonious divorce between she and Dale Earnhardt Jr. over what should have been their legacy together is poisonous to the point that Theresa deserves every backlash she's getting. And the fact that all Kerry wants to do is build houses with his wife.
Yeah, we're not even talking about on-track stuff. We're not even talking about racing.
Yeah.
He wants to build houses, put his name on it, and here's somebody coming in trying to stop that. Not only that, they were denied, and then she's going through appeal court now, like making him spend more money on
her crap was shut down. Her copyright infringement was denied, and all Kerry and his wife want to do is build good homes for people. Mm-hmm. They're not trying to. So Theresa already destroyed the race car business. There is no DEI.
No.
Dale Earnhardt Incorporated does not exist.
Right, Junior Motorsports does.
100% Theresa's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And Dale Jr. and Kelly Earnhardt Miller have developed Junior Motorsports into something that is
viable.
It's very viable. It produced Chase Elliott, for one. But it is, Hendrick says, hey, y'all are my feeder system.
Mm-hmm.
If Hendrick Motorsports is willing to say, I want you to be my development program and my partner in developing race car drivers, and I just put a Junior Motorsports driver in the arguably the most important car in the series, in Jeff Gordon, in terms of success. Okay, we just talked about Jimmie. We can argue about Junior. Junior hadn't won a championship yet.
Mm-hmm.
The 24 car is one of the most important cars in NASCAR right now in terms of association.
Yep.
Whether you associate it with Jeff Gordon or you now associate it with Chase Elliott.
When I was listening to the race, actually, Jeff Gordon goes, and there's Chase Elliott in the 24 car. Like, he took a very slight pause. I noticed it and thought, that's kind of funny. But, yeah.
Yeah, well, he's still trying to overcome the weirdness of being in the booth instead of driving the car.
Sure.
And
when he has to talk
fine.
about, if he's talking about the 48, no pause. The 88, no pause. 78, no pause. I don't know why they all end 8 that I decided to choose, but one of those things you notice. But yeah, when he said 24, he was like, wait, yeah, Chase. It was kind of like, shoot.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I think it jumbled his brain a little bit, and he, as much as he wants to root for Chase and root for Hendrick, it's a challenge for a competitor to see what used to be yours go around the track.
Wait till Chase wins that first race, and then you'll hear Jeff Gordon's.
He's going to flip his stuff.
He's going to flip his lid, just like DW did when Michael won the 500.
Exactly.
All that stuff. So, anyway, we brought it down. Let's bring it back up.
Let's cruise
back up. I think a good place to cruise up is, I think last week we talked about the All-Star race format in terms of what we might like to see. And this week they've actually announced it, exactly what it's going to be. And they worked with Brad Keselowski, especially, from what I understand.
Yeah, sounds like it was completely what he wrote down
Pretty
on a
much
piece
his
of
idea.
notebook paper.
Yeah. And we're trying something different. Did we talk about this already on the podcast, or me and you just BS about it at your house?
I think we BS'd about it on Friday night after we did the podcast Thursday night.
Yeah,
I think we're suffering from having seen each other too often. Sometimes it'll happen with friends, but yeah, no, we talked about it Friday night because that's when they released it, and that Brad Keselowski had been basically the brainchild behind, let's do a pill draw on the top 9/11 cars having to pit going into the last segment. I don't know why 13 laps is special, but the only thing I would challenge is if I'm out on 15-lap tires, I'm pitting.
Yep.
Unless Goodyear brings square brick tires.
Yeah.
Like if they're actual functional rubber tires, I'm pitting anyway. So I don't know that you've done anything special.
Well, they can't pit. Isn't that the whole thing? They're not
Are
allowed
they
to
not
pit.
allowed?
Yeah.
But you
They're
can
not allowed
pit
to
2 laps before it goes
So
yellow.
that's the question. But now you're going to be out back, and then you get moved to the front. You're going to see the field pit with 2 to go.
The field's going to pit with 2 to go.
And then
in
everybody's
going to
stand back to
That's
the
what
last.
I'm saying.
I mean,
like the field's going to pit with 2 to go in the third segment.
But here's a cool thing to me. There's so much strategy that goes on in this. The field's going to pit, and then they're going to not try to get to the line at the same time, and then everybody's going to blah blah blah. All these people doing all this stuff, but it adds a level of chaos and gimmickness to a race that is a gimmick to start with. I think that's something you told me too. Was this race is kind of gimmicky to start with. It's fun. It's something different. Let's throw a gimmick in there. Let's not try this out at Dover next week. Let's do this at the All-Star race. Make something happen. Make something different happen. See what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see how it works. See what the different strategies are. See who wants tires, and they may have to play it out too. If they're on tires that are just not falling off, I think that's the other side of this. Is it's all about tires now, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on what tires are brought, and they got to be real careful that they're bringing.
It's got to be soft
tires that are real soft.
It's got to be a soft tire, or it's not going to matter.
Or the leader's just going to,
But if it is a soft tire, you're going to see exactly what we talked about. So there's 15 lap segment 3. They're going to pit with 2 to go towards the caution, and you're going to get 2 lap tire people going against 4 no lap tire people. And so it's not going to matter that you forced the top 10 to pit unless the tire is the only thing that matters. If aero is the overwhelming, like we had at Kansas. If we have Kansas, it's not going to matter. If we have Atlanta or California or even Vegas or even Texas, then it'll matter.
Yep.
And that's what we want. We want to see people slicing and dicing through the field and want to see a guy come from 12th to 1st. That's what we want. That's what NASCAR wants. That's what we want. Goodyear has to be really prepared.
Yep. And it feels like to me is, you go to the local dirt track and there's going to be 2 or 3 races of something wacko. The one race I love where one dude steers and the other one controls throttle and brake, and then the one there,
this front and rear.
or figure 8 track with tow and trailers and stuff. So I think this is close to figure 8 track tow and trailers that we're going to see, which I think is cool. I think it's cool that they've done this in this format in this race, so that we can let's see something completely gimmicky with these cars and see how they respond, see what the strategies are, and see what people do.
Yeah, I guess playing the other card, the third card of Devil's Advocate, I guess what I'd like to see is let's not worry about being at the most impressive venue in the world. Let's go to a place we know that the ticket's going to matter. Like, I would love the AllStar race to be at Hickory or Bowman Gray or
Eldora.
Rockingham. Eldora may be workable too.
Yeah.
Problem is, the proximity to Charlotte, you kind of need, like, in terms of the travel expense. But
true. These are all stars. They're all rich. They can make it.
Yeah, but the fans aren't.
I know. I'm just
most of the fans are not.
Oh, you hold an all-star race with those cars at Eldora, and they will show up.
Well, we'll fill those stands.
$500
And that's what I'm
a
saying
ticket.
is, and that's exactly what I'm saying. That's my entire point is, if you drive interest, don't drive interest over seeking to fill a venue. Drive interest over whatever's happening on the track is going to cause people to want to be here. And let's not. I mean, if it was me and I was running Charlotte for the All-Star race, it'd be $10. I don't give a damn where you sit. It's $10. Fight for your spot.
Yeah,
it's $10.
We'll gimmick that one too.
I
Fight
mean,
for your spot.
Why? What if you sell 10,000 seats for $30? Is that really better than selling 30,000 seats for $3 or whatever that math works out to? Doesn't matter.
Good question. Sure, just looked up and to the left.
I don't do arithmetic very well
it?
when I'm on the mic. What I'm saying is the positive collateral damage to getting people to come to the racetrack is way more important than the cost of the ticket, when it's painfully obvious that the cost of the ticket or the travel cost is what's driving people away. So, next weekend when we only have a truck race, and then they're actually running the BS thing before the All-Star race is, where people try to qualify. Mm-hmm. They're actually running that the same night as a truck race.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the only thing that's happening on Saturday night is the All-Star race.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you already have less product. Like, for sure, don't charge a lot for people to be there.
Well, sure.
But I don't know what they're charging, so.
Ain't no telling.
I mean, we're not going.
Yeah. We need to go one day.
I mean,
maybe this format will
I
pique
keep
our
getting
interest
denied
again.
by SMI for every track on being a media member.
Well, that'll happen.
It's a daily experience.
We'll get there. Maybe at the 2,000 followers, we'll be there.
Well, yeah. Y'all gotta, like, promote us more or whatever. I know it's on us. It's on us. But
let's talk about next week. You said you said next week. Well, let's talk about next week. We're going to Dover.
Dover, the Monster Mile.
The Monster Mile. Miles the Monster. The Monster Mile.
Concrete racetrack.
Yep.
One of only 2.5, really. Martinsville is about half concrete in the corners.
Mm-hmm.
But we always said Concrete Carl because he used to be really good at Nashville, really good at Bristol, and those were the only 2. No, Nashville, Bristol, and Dover. All those are mostly concrete, and so it's a little bit different racing surface. It doesn't behave the same way as asphalt, and I guess there's a way to pedal that you could be considered Concrete Carl. But I don't know that we've seen him win a cup race there in quite a while. Seems like Jimmie Johnson just sort of wins all the races there.
Right. That does, close to get us to picks. You ready to pick? So,
yes. I'm actually going to pick. You're going to be surprised by my pick.
Okay.
But I want you to tell us how we did last week.
Well, so last week I picked Kansas at Kansas. He was not involved in the wreck we talked about, and therefore, he was actually running up front. I think he finished third or fourth, something like that, top 5.
And who did I pick?
You might have picked Old Sliced Bread, I believe. Old Joey
Who
Logano.
was
DFL or close.
caught up in a wreck. Yep.
Caught up in a wreck. So
who caused that wreck?
well, according to even Sliced Bread himself, that was a racing deal. So we'll say Kenny. We'll say
Okay.
Denny
So
Hamlin.
stock car racing / Denny Hamlin
Denny
wrecked
Hamlin.
my driver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But he plowed into Larson after the whole deal was done. See, if he'd have just gone low, dude, then he'd have been.
Well, we'd have hit Brad, so it was all good.
Yeah. So you know what that means. Let's bring him up. Apologies to everybody. I don't know if that was even loud enough. I mean, you're going to hear it, but it's not to the volume level, to the decibels that we really want to blow your ears out with that guy, because that guy rules. So, I mean, I know our friend of the podcast, the Right Front Tire, T Right Front Tire, calls it picking under caution, but I think I deserved.
Spotter Brett picked under caution today. I wanted to tweet her at him.
Oh, that's funny. I deserve to pick Jimmy. Why not? Let's have some fun. And here's I think the more interesting part of the pick for me. What, you're picking Jimmy? You can't say you were. You said I was going to be surprised. Here is maybe the more interesting pick that I'm going to do. I don't think we're going to get a new winner this race. That's my
It's going to be a
thought.
repeat winner.
I think it's going to be a repeat winner.
Somebody
We're
that's
talking
already won
about-
this year.
We're talking about, and I know that's not a big thing if you give me any race and you say, well, will you take, who is it, Jimmy and Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards and Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski or the field? I'm probably going to not take the field, but I'm just saying I don't think this is one of those races where your dark horse, where your rookie driver is going to be winning the race. But you're fixing to pick, so you tell me what's going to blow my mind.
I think that's totally fair, because I think if you look at the history of Dover,
Junior might stand a chance.
there aren't a whole lot of one-time winners at Dover.
No.
This isn't Talladega. So here's where I'm going, and I'm going on front end. This isn't a dark horse pick. I did a little research.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little research. And thanks to NASCAR Behind the Wall,
Okay.
I'm picking Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson, really?
In 4 races, he leads all of NASCAR in average finish with 7.5.
Wow. Just got goosebumps. See
4
that?
races in his career. His average start is 8.5. His average finish is 7.5. So I'm going with Kyle Larson.
Mr. Consistency.
As front end, win his first race.
He's also a extended bumper for Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, no
Evidently.
kid. No kid.
But I think that's good. Are we doing dark horses?
Why
Should
wouldn't we?
Why not?
I mean, we're going to fight over like the same 4 people.
Well, and so that's the thing. I already said it. Not that Junior's a dark horse, but
He is, because he hadn't won there.
Well, right. From the outside of the people that I just named, saying I don't think there's going to be a new winner, then Junior would be the one who I would say could possibly be the new winner. Although, like you said, he hadn't won there. He's got to win some point. Maybe.
I
supposedly.
don't hate it. I'll root for it.
Yeah. So that's a poopy dark horse. But otherwise, I'm just picking one of the same, just grab bag of the same 3 people that we've talked about for, are we going to pick Larson or Chase or Austin Dillon? I don't know. I'm not feeling them in this race. So I'll pick Junior. And if he wins, I'm not going to take the glory. How about that?
Well, I don't care whether you take the glory.
I'll still take
But
the glory.
if we're dark horsing, which means I'm going to pick somebody that hasn't won before.
Uh-huh.
I think I said this 2 weeks ago, or maybe I said it last week. I'm picking Chase. I think this is a place where his patience can really pay off.
Well, that's a good point here at Dover, yeah.
Because you're
the
going
1
to
mile.
get a lot of pit stops. It's really fast, and you have to chill the F word out. You have to chill out. Chill out.
Yeah.
You got to chill out.
400 laps, right? We're doing 400
laps, 400 miles.
400 laps, 400 miles. That's probably one of the slowest, longest races.
In terms of length
will.
of time, this is one of the longest races of the year. And that's why I'm thinking Chase's patience is really going to pay off.
Yep. So, looking forward to this race. Looking real forward to it.
Yeah, I'm
stoked. I mean, Dover's another one.
I've already turned down 2 golf invitations. Like, I'm watching racing this weekend.
Yeah, I'm. That's on the short list, as we've talked about with Pocono, Dover, and maybe like Sonoma or something.
If Pocono and Dover were back to back,
we'd make us a road trip out of that.
I would be hammer timing that idea.
Ain't no doubt. So I've got a couple shout-outs today, just a couple. Let's see. We'll bring that. Oh, you know
I love that screaming goat.
Yeah, you know that screaming goat, and I even turned the volume up on the end of it, so you kind of got like a ah, something like that.
Nice.
That's terrible.
Screechy.
Yeah, that's not even close. But shout-outs we may have before, but I couldn't remember. So at Perfect Face for Radio, it's at Perfect Face for Radio. He's doing a podcast called The Cord Cutter's Guide to Motorsports. So across all different series, F1 and Indy, and even local stuff and all kinds of stuff. He gave us a little shout-out, returning the favor here. And he's doing good stuff. If you're a cord cutter, I am not. Sherwin is not. We're so addicted to sports, it's hard to be a cord cutter in the sports world. But if you're doing that, he's got a great little podcast going on where he's keeping everybody up to date on how to find this stuff, how to watch it, where to go. So, follow that fella. And one more shout out to last week's guest, Matt Weaver. He's been kicking ass and taking names, and it was fun as hell to have him on. So at Matt Weaver SBN.
Oh yeah,
we
that was a good time. Matt. That was a great time.
That was a good time.
Really good dude.
You had mentioned it. A quick shout out to probably the most, not by me, but probably the most, or I'll say the media member with the most vitriol this week is Jenna Fryer, releasing an article about NASCAR and politics and taking a stand on the old HB 42 thing and blah, blah, blah. HB 24, 42? HB 2.
Yeah.
40. Did I say 42? It's not Larson.
Yeah. Sorry, Kyle. No, it's HB 2. Yeah, Jenna really took a strong stance, a stance that you would expect a strong woman to take, and that is certainly much more about applause than anything else. That it's just such a weird deal, and it's not male versus female. It's what are you trying to exclude? And so we don't want to get too deep into politics. There's no reason to do so. She caught a fresh rash and a ish over her stance. And, she's a great motorsports journalist, and I think it sucks that when she chooses to move into that environment that people don't understand what it is they're saying in an internet space or an online space. It's the same thing. That, like, what you're saying matters. Like, people are going to read it, and that, like, let's be human beings here, for Christ's sake.
Right. And I mean, Jenna Fryer, she's a great person. She hooked us up with tickets to Bristol one year.
She writes for AP. She's awesome. She's a strong woman with a strong opinion. Why do you hate that? Why are you scared of that? If you're scared of that, you're the problem. You're a sissy. Okay? Yep. So if you're a dude,
have a discourse,
and you're mad at Jenna Fryer and what she's doing, you're a sissy, and you have problems that you need to solve.
So she did post a tweet that said something like, "Well, I guess I'm supposed to be back in the kitchen, but instead I'm talking about
set
this
on fire or whatever."
yeah, and I think it's really strong for especially, and I mean, dude, it's the truth. Women have to deal with more than we do on social media. Unfortunately, it's an unfortunate thing, and I hate that it has to be man versus woman because we're inclusive of everybody. But our producer, the Frizz 11, she deals with it. We know Batman. She deals with stuff, Batman, and she just lets it roll. Frizz. She's great about it. Jenna Fryer, everybody. So let me say this, y'all. Women, I love you.
Yeah, we are.
We love you.
We are super in favor of women giving us opinions about sports. The Sarah Spain thing and Julie DiCarlo. I listened to a couple podcasts and watched a couple ESPN shows that they've been on. I love what they had to say. I think it's despicable, some of the stuff they have to go through, because men don't have to do that. That's ridiculous. Because it doesn't matter. They get an unfair amount of ridicule based on their sex versus based on their content. And the content is how they should be judged.
Yeah.
If you don't like the content, say, hey, I don't like the content. But if I don't like what you're saying because you're a woman, or I don't like what you're saying because you're a man, and those things aren't equal, obviously, but that's bullspit.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we've already done it, but it was Ladies' Night on the PETM podcast, and we fully support that. Hey, let's start closing this thing out. You ready for this?
Yeah, you know bounce some music over.
You know how we close this thing out.
Jelly bean.
We've got the jelly bean challenge. So it's funny.
I dig into that Jim Beam if you're not careful.
I tweeted it earlier this week. I was working.
You've been up here eating all
in my day job, and the beer jelly beans are sitting here, and I was just picking one, and then picked another, and I said, "Man, working from home in the PTM podcast studio is dangerous." Beer jelly beans sitting right here. Oh, I've got multiple bags still. We've got a lot going on.
Jelly bean closes out challenge, a little bit chewy.
That's good stuff.
We appreciate y'all sticking around. Obviously, you know now, but we're not afraid to hit a hard topic, even though we don't go deep down the rabbit hole.
No, we're having fun. Hey, listen, the places that you can listen to this has grown again. We're officially on Google Play Store. You can go on there. And just recently, we on YouTube, y'all. YouTube. You can listen to PETM 1. And that's all so far. But I'm going to try to get that going later on and get all the episodes up there. But if you want to know how to find it, go to PETMpodcast.com. On the right-hand side, you're going to see all the ways to follow us. There's Twitter, Facebook, Google Play. There's the RSS link. There's YouTube. There's iTunes. You can email us. All those things right there. As always, follow us on Twitter at PETM Podcast. And I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
I'm Pregame Engineer at Pregame ENG. And these damn jelly beans are good as hell.
I'll tell you what. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Thumbs up.